Hello everyone, and welcome to Trending in My Life. This is episode 32, and today we're talking about fabulous, fantastic, phenomenal February. We've got through gloomy January, and now it's time to get out and about, do some things, seize the day, whether it's snowy or sunshiny, just give it your all. Let's go out there and enjoy everything. And along the way, we're heading towards Valentine's Day in a couple of weeks, and make sure you love yourself as well as loving others. Just give yourself a little bit of pampering. I've been looking at the garden and thinking we're a bit like the garden, going through changes at this time of year. Some days are grey and gloomy with the weather, and some days are bright and sunny. It's a very changeable month. You're not quite sure whether you're slipping into spring or whether you're still well rooted in winter time. Some days the temperatures are really cold. There was frost on the grass this morning, and they're forecasting snow for us in a couple of weeks. Just about the day before Valentine's Day, I think. So I'm still bundled up in lots of layers when I head off to work, but quite often I've shed a couple of layers and they're in my backpack on the way home. The daylight hours are changing. I've noticed the morning gets lighter quicker and the evenings stay lighter longer. That's good. It lifts the spirit not to be in the dark all the time. Since I finished my Baking the Blues Away series that was for the whole month of January on my videos, I'm going to do a bit of filming kit on Friday, which is the lights that I got given for Christmas. So I'm doing an unboxing Friday because there's always YouTubers that find that interesting, that are looking to choose lights, or like for me, it's the first time I've ever had lights to light my set, and the ones that I got seemed particularly good because there was an extra piece that I didn't realise was going to be in there, which does a 360-degree swivel on the top of a tripod. And I had a sort of spare tripod that I could use that on. So yeah, you can look forward to seeing that on Friday. I'm going to continue to do the baking, but I'm going to do it mostly as shorts now, so not part of my featured video each week. This gives me a little bit of space to do things like going out and about to places, exploring a bit of London, all dependent on the weather, of course. I did try this week to do spontaneous things because I talked about it in my podcast last week. It's incredibly difficult and I was quite surprised by that. I thought things would happen and it would be easy, but it wasn't. And I think I talked about the fact that in January we get ourselves into routines. We kind of hunker down with the cold and the rain and the snow and stuff like that. So we get into routines of where we tend to travel between A and B, just between home and work, or home and if you have to visit like an elderly relative and stuff like that. But you've got a set plan on certain days of the week and you only go from A to B. And that didn't really put me in a situation where I had to be spontaneous. Early on in the week I had travel problems. Trains were being cancelled and rerouted and stuff like that, and I had to go in the opposite direction, and then I had to then I found more trains were cancelled and I had to go back again, and there were lots of on the spot decisions to be made, but I wouldn't call them being spontaneous. That was just making my way home, and it was a bit of a struggle to get there and you had to keep going in different directions. But it's one of those things, when trains get cancelled, I always have the attitude, if I can get a little bit closer on my journey, then I take whatever transport will get me a little bit closer, and then you sort of baby step your way along until you eventually get where you're going. Because rather than just stay in one spot waiting for, like, if there's a blockage on the tracks or stuff like that, you could wait and wait and wait, and then they still might not put any trains on that line, and with the weather being cold, I try and avoid having to stand on platforms for a long time in the cold weather. But yeah, I could have sort of spun it that it was me being spontaneous, but it really wasn't. It was very much out of need to get home that I made those decisions. The only thing that I can say I did do spontaneously was what I'd mentioned in my podcast last week. Was I went in the supermarket and I walked along the fruit and veg aisle, and I just randomly looked for anything that I'd never eaten or tried before, and I got Sharon fruit, which in some places they seem to call them persimmon. Yeah, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but yeah, it seems to be the same item, but just named something different. Yeah, and it was a whole new experience to try that. So yeah, I would definitely say that was spontaneous. But I'm just going to keep it in the back of my head as something to be aware of if it happens in the future. I think it's more likely when the weather is warmer. I always come through central London on my way home, but I just pass through it. I don't stop. When the weather is warmer, I tend to stop and do things in central before I come home, because the nights are lighter, so I wouldn't be travelling in the dark kind of thing. So yeah, hopefully there's definitely going to be something in the future where I show all these spontaneous things I've done. But I don't know what they'll be, because obviously that's going to be when it happens, spur of the moment. So yeah, February. I think this month of the year, it's good to start opening yourself up to opportunities. Start thinking about what you want to do this year. Some people will be planning holidays, I'm sure, vacations to warmer places. That's one thing, isn't it? Quite often, if your weather at home is cold, then it inspires you to book a holiday that's warm somewhere. And that then gives you something to look forward to. I've said before, I don't usually do that, but that's a financial thing. I know financially, if you do it way in advance, you do get cheaper flights and accommodation. But I don't like to make the decision of where I'll be and what I'll be doing in sort of months ahead. It's probably not a good thing. I probably would enjoy looking forward to something. I still have this problem where I've not been in an airport since I had that very bad flight both ways across the Atlantic. So I've got to overcome that, and it isn't flying, it's people, it's crowds of people that freak me out. So yeah, I think I have to work on that before I book anything. Yeah, but it must be nice for those people who, you know, as soon as New Year happens, then they're on those websites and they're finding somewhere and they're booking something. Yeah, and I mean, I know a lot of people do it because they will pay in installments rather than all in one go. So I can understand the logic behind that. But yeah, let's try and make it a fantastic month, you know. Not be gloomy anymore, thinking on the bright side about everything, looking forward to the future. I mean, who knows what it'll be. So that's it, look on the bright side, think that it's going to be wonderful, and then I'm sure it will be. They always say what you focus on is what you get, and if that's true, then if you're gloomy all the time and you know, miserable and saying, oh, nothing ever goes right, then and I never have any good luck, blah blah blah, then you're bringing that on yourself, and I'd hate to think that. So I'm sticking with the think positive. So I hope you've had a really good week. Ending up January and starting into February. I was thinking with my lights, actually, when I open them. I thought, oh no, I really don't like manuals, having to read a manual in order to put something together and get it to work. But it was odd. There were two different sets of instructions, and one set was like on a postcard really, and it was pictures, and I could do those. And that was actually the tripods themselves. And then the lights, there was a proper instruction manual with the lights, except like there was only about 3 pages in English, and all the rest was different languages, and very few pictures, and it didn't seem to explain how you put them together. I figured it out, but I thought manuals have really changed over the years. They used to be page after page after page of reading what to do before you even touch anything, and John, my son, is very good at reading stuff like that, and I don't know whether it's me or it's just women generally that don't enjoy reading manuals. I could be completely wrong there, but I'm very glad I have a son who I can pass the manuals to. Yeah, and I obviously when I do an unboxing, like when I did the green screen, I do have to read the manual because I'm doing the unboxing. I'm live unboxing it and reading how to put it together and figuring it out if I can't figure out from the manual. So yeah, but that's something that will lead on to something else, because once I've got the light, well, the lights are behind me now. And when I film the intro and the outro for Friday's video, I will use them. And I have to get used to the fact that, you know, I can pick up one of these tripod lights and take it into the kitchen with me. Because quite often when I'm doing stuff in the kitchen, I just have my neck holder on with my phone on. And because of that, I don't think of any setup. But I've noticed the light hasn't been very good the last couple of things I did. In fact, I was doing a crafting video this morning and I noticed there was so many shadows, and yeah, so I need to get into the habit of using one of these lights, at least one of them, every time that I film down in the kitchen. I think Valentine's Day is a nice it's a nice celebration of love, and I'm trying to do more shorts in this 14 days leading up to Valentine's Day, and I'm doing a mixture of crafting, a mixture of baking, and also random bits as well. I learned something about nature and leaves. I googled what plant has a heart-shaped leaf, and it said ivy, and I thought an ivy grows wild here. It's sort of, if you have any in your garden, it will take over. I've got some that's between my fence and my shed, so I don't really care what it's doing, but it started to come along the fence. Now if it does that, it will then go down into the ground where the plants are, so I need to cut it back so it doesn't go any further than, there's like a tree stump from a tree being cut down, and I don't mind if it goes over that, but I have to stop it going into the ground. I would really like it to go over the shed roof, because I've mentioned before, this is a rented house, and the shed had a the roof of the shed has like a dent in it, and just before we moved in they cut down a tree that was in the garden right next to it, and I suspect a branch came down off the tree, hit the shed roof and sort of bent it, and where it bent it there's a gap which water leaks in. So I put like a half a drain pipe over the top of it, turned so that it covers the hole, and it's worked really well. But I thought if ivy would just grow all over the top of it, it would cover that, so aesthetically it would look nicer, but also it would keep it drier. But of course, the ivy's been really stubborn and not growing in that direction. And despite the fact ivy normally just grows everywhere when you have it, it's one of those plants that people don't buy it and put it in their garden in the earth. They will put it, if they want it in their garden, they will sort of put it in a hanging basket so that it's out of the general soil of the garden and the earth, so that it's restricted, shall we say. It's a bit like I've got mint in the garden, and I didn't plant it. It's been there since before we lived here. But no matter what you do to it, it just keeps growing and growing and growing and spreading, and you can pull all the roots out and there'll be a tiny bit that will grow again and grow again. It is very nice to be able to pick a few leaves and put them in a teapot and just put some hot water on them, or to just pick some and put them in a room so it'll smell nice. But it's one of those things, you kind of inherit other people's plants when you move into a house and with a garden. So there'll always be something that was there previously. Oh, talking of the garden, yesterday I saw Crazy Squirrel on the Friends. He didn't stay long, but I haven't seen him for about a month. And I did think, oh, he must be hibernating. And then I kind of Googled it, and it said that squirrels don't necessarily hibernate, they just stay home, basically. Like the rest of us do in cold weather. They stay home, and the nuts that they've stored up and other food is what they're eating while they're staying home, so they don't need to go out. And there was an incident where I saw a new cat in the neighbourhood, and it was halfway up a tree. I'd not seen a cat climb that high up a tree, and I thought, this is bad news for the squirrels, because obviously it's not going to stop when they go up a tree. It's going to follow them. So I'm hoping they stay safe. Okay, that's it for this week. Please like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, and come back next time. Bye for now.